Hi guys, my name's Lee. So today we're going to do a recipe, really easy recipe, is Veggie Eggy Muffins. So basically this is part of the funding that we've got with Comic Relief, and it's a little cook along to show you how to make really simple snack. Got some egg in it. We're going to use some bread, and we're just using up some veg that we've got sort of left over. So for the food bags that went out today, you'll have more than enough to make lots more than these, okay? So what we'll do, we'll go through some of the equipment that we might need. If you've got any questions, you can put them in the comments box on the screen. We'll go through the equipment and then also the ingredients, and then we'll sort of crack on with the recipe. The first thing we need to do is to put our oven on, because we're going to be using the oven. Okay, so I would suggest put it on around 160 to 180, okay? And by the time we actually need it, it will be really warm and we can put the stuff in then. So what we'll do to start off with is give you a bit of background about the recipe. So some of the reasons why we're doing this is because it's really easy to make. As I said, any sort of spare veg that you've got, you can use it. Okay, ideally it needs to be soft veg, because obviously if you put it in the oven, things like carrots, parsnips, anything like that won't cook in time, so they'll be still quite hard. If you've got veg that's maybe going off, you could put that in there. If it was hard, like your carrots and parsnips and stuff like that, you could always boil it down for a little bit and then put them in so they're nice and soft when they actually go into the mixture. It's got a bit of everything as well, this. So we've got some bread, which is our carbohydrates. We've got some eggs for the protein, and we've got some veg, okay? And basically they're good snacks. So if you do make, so for example, today we're going to be making it with 2 eggs. If you've got a 6-pack of eggs, you can make lots more, put them in containers, leave them in the fridge, and if you are peckish, they're quite a good snack to go to, okay? Rather than going for a bag of crisps or something like that. So I'll go through some of the equipment that we'll need, okay? So I, for example, have got a little container. Now that's only for me. I'm not in the kitchen, obviously, now. So I'm going to use that for any scraps, food scraps or anything like that. Okay, that's just to keep my space nice and tidy. You might not need this today, but the stuff that you will need is you'll need a bowl, okay? Just a plain small bowl. A fork and a spoon, tablespoon or teaspoon, it doesn't really matter. You'll need either a muffin tray, okay? If you are going to use a muffin tray, you'll need a little bit of oil, okay? I have got muffin cases. Now these are silicone, okay? So when you put stuff in them and they're cooked, once they're cool, they'll pop straight out. So you don't really need oil for these, okay? In some of the food bags that we gave out today, you will received some of them, so you can use them. If you are using paper muffin cases, then again, you might need a bit of oil. If you haven't got any of that, okay, that for example, and you're just using paper things, you might need a baking tray, okay? So we'll just sort of see how we get on with what you've got. As long as they go into something that keeps its shape, you don't want them going into something and they're going to spread out and then obviously be a bit like an omelette, so you don't want that. So that's some of the equipment that we need. Some of the ingredients are, oh sorry, you need a chopping board as well, that's to my left. So we've got pepper, okay. We've got some eggs. Now these are free-range eggs. We always go for free-range eggs, okay, just because it's a higher welfare of the hens. We've got some bread, wholemeal bread preferably, purely because it's got a bit more fibre, okay. Today we've got some mushrooms. They're just white mushrooms. And we've got some tomatoes that are on the vine, okay. So we're probably not going to use all of that veg, okay, because we're probably going to make, I would say, around 4. Everyone's going to be different. So if you've got smaller muffin cases, you're probably going to make more. If you've got bigger ones, you'll probably make less, okay? And you might need a bit of oil and a splash of milk. You don't really need the milk, it's just to sort of loosen up the mixture, but we'll get to that when we come to it, okay? So what we're going to do to start off with is we're going to do a little safety check. So if you've got long hair, tie it back for us. Put an apron on if you've got one. Any jewellery off, watches, rings, stuff like that. Roll your sleeves up, okay? You might need a dishcloth or an oven glove or something like that, because obviously you're going in and out of the oven, so you need something there to stop your hands burning. And if you've got shoes and you're in the kitchen, make sure they're tied up nice and tight, just so, because if you're moving around, you don't want it to fall over a lace or something like that, okay? The only other safety check is that all my veg has been washed. I've done all this beforehand, okay? So give it a quick rinse, okay? Also, you don't need to give the eggs a rinse, okay? Anything that you've got that we're going to be like using actually in the recipe just needs a rinse, so pretty much your veg. So I'm going to give you maybe 30 seconds to do that, and I'm going to bring the screen round and then get started. So if you are making any changes to this, maybe you make this today, you might not like tomatoes, you might put something else in, you might use spring onions, do send them along to our website. You can even post it on Twitter or Instagram. Be interesting to see what you've made and what variations you've made. So I'm going to bring the screen down and then we're going to get started, okay? So remember, our oven is on, okay? Now, you probably noticed that I haven't got a knife. So you probably think, how am I going to chop up my veg? Now, what we're going to do, we're going to roast our veg. And basically, the smaller the veg is, okay, the quicker it's going to take to cook. Tomatoes have got quite a lot of moisture in, so they're not going to take that long. They're quite thin. So when they go in the oven, after maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes, a lot of that moisture is probably going to come out. And when they do come out, you can just squeeze them with a fork or a spoon just to get that last little bit of moisture out if you wanted to. So they're just going to go in whole. Okay, so we'll start off nice and easy. We get our bowl. Okay. And we're just going to get our tomatoes. If you've got bigger ones, then obviously you'll need to cut them. If they're needed to be cut with a sharp knife, I'd probably get an adult to do that. If you're confident, then you can do it. So we're going to use about a third of a handful, because a handful is a portion. Now, if we use more than a handful today, we're going to have lots and lots and lots of veg, okay, and probably won't have a lot of texture in our muffins. So we're going to use about a third of a handful, okay? So probably 3 for me is about right. 3 to 4, we're going to go with 4. For you guys, it might be 2 or 3, okay? And remember, these will shrink when they're in the oven. So these have all been washed. So they're going to go straight into the bowl. Easy. I'm going to put that to one side. And we're going to move on to our mushrooms. So mushrooms are obviously really soft. So what we can do, if we've got the stalk bit, we can just pull it out. We can use that, okay? So again, for me, maybe 2 is about a third. If I was to do a full portion, that'd probably be 4 for me. But remember, we've got lots of different types of veg we're going to be using today. So I want to do that with the other one. And it's done. So I don't need a knife for this. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to use my fist. And I'm just going to push it down. Push it down. Turn it away. And then I can just break it up. Now remember, the smaller the veg is today, it's going to take a lot quicker to cook. So if we can get it in the oven and out of the oven in 10 minutes, that's perfect. Now I don't need a knife for this at all, okay? Just make sure they've been washed. And once our mushrooms have all been done, we can work on the stalks. and we can just rip them up. So you might, again, these are just white mushrooms. You could use any mushrooms really. You could have some chestnut mushrooms in there. You could use like the big king oyster mushrooms. It's completely up to you. Now we're going to work on our pepper. So we've got our other two in there. Remember colours. So we've got some white and we've got some red. Now we're going for yellow. All right. So we're not going to use the whole pepper. That's too much. So you can use this and some of your tomatoes and mushrooms for another day. We don't need that just yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this out. Okay, so we can do that to one side. You can push that down as hard as you can. And now you've got a little hole in the middle. Now what you can do is start to open it up. Okay, and again, use our fingers. Just break it up. Now that is about a third of a handful. I'm going to go a little bit more. That's about enough for me. That is going to go to one side. So you should know what to do now. All we need to do is to break it up into little small pieces. So I'm going to use my waste. And the waste is going to go in there. So this has all been washed. I'm going to get my bowl. What I'm going to do is break it up. Just use my fingers. Just pinch into it. If it's a bit too big, just use your fingers again. Easy, really easy. Okay, we don't need lots and lots of fancy equipment or anything like that. Just using our fingers today. So if you get a bit older and you're still into the cooking, you could always make it a little bit neater by making them even smaller. You could cube them, you could dice them. But for us, that's fine. If you really wanted to, you might even want to get the tomato, just pierce it. That might get some moisture out. It's completely up to you, but you don't have to do that. So once I've got my veg, I'm going to use some oil. Now I'm just using some normal rapeseed oil. I probably wouldn't use extra virgin olive oil. I'll really use extra virgin olive oil on foods when they're cold, like salads and stuff. So all we're going to do is pour about a tablespoon. Be really, really careful. So about a tablespoon goes in. Pour that into my veg. And all I'm going to do is mix it up. Now, I don't know whether you know, but it's Salt Awareness Week this week. So because of that, we're not going to add any salt into this recipe, okay? Because there is a little bit of salt in the bread. You guys would have some mixed herbs. You could add a pinch of that in towards the end, not just yet. Okay, you could add it in now actually if you wanted to. If you want to, they might burn some of the herbs because they're going to be in the oven for maybe 10-15 minutes. So once we mix all that around, we're going to get our baking tray. And we're going to put our veg, and this is a silicone mat, okay? Again, something silicone, just nice and easy to clean. You don't have to keep buying tin foil or anything like that. And we're just going to spoon all of our veg onto the baking tray. You might not even have to add tin foil or anything. You can put it straight onto the baking tray if you wanted to. And then what we're going to do is just spread it out a little bit. And that is going to go in the oven for about 10-15 minutes, okay? So I'm going to disappear to the oven and put this in, and then we're going to come back and make the rest of the filling. So we've done our veg. What we're going to do now is do the bread. and the eggs. So we've got our slice of bread. We're going to use the same bowl. There's nothing in there that we need to wash. There's only a bit of veg in there, so we don't need to do anything. Again, with our fingers, we're just going to take big pinches of bread. You can use stale bread if you wanted to. If it's a little bit hard, doesn't matter. It's all going to go in the oven, so it's going to get soaked up by the egg, so it doesn't really matter. Okay. If you've got a bit of baguette, or maybe you could even do some sweet muffins with some fruit and maybe some brioche bread or something like that, or some croissants. That might be quite nice. So once we've done that with our bread, we're not going to add anything to it. We're just going to give it a little mix, get the rest of that oil off the sides. You could even do that. And that's it. So we're waiting now for the veg to come out. So while we're waiting for the veg to come out, we can clear our space quickly. We can get rid of that waste. We can get rid of our veg, because it might get a little bit messy in the minute when we break up eggs. Right, so here's some of the veg that I put in the oven. Turn that off. So I've rushed through this little step. So my tomatoes, they're still not cooked, okay? But what you could do, once they are cooked, you could just squash them with a spoon or a fork to get some of that moisture. What we need to do next is we need to get all of our muffin cases, whether you're using the tray or the muffin cases, is completely up to you. So I'm going to use muffin cases, okay? And I'm going to put them in there just for a bit of extra support. All right, so we're just going to do as many as we can, because we might need a few of them, okay? A few more. I doubt we will, but we'll put them just in case. So, to our bowl. Remember, you're not going to be where I am yet. You're going to be doing this in about 5 minutes, okay? So, we're going to get all of our veg, and we're going to put it in with our bread. And we're going to give it a little mix. So once we've done that, a lot of the oils that have come out from the roasting, hopefully some of your veg is a little bit crispy around the edges. Once we've done that, we can get our spoon, and we're just going to spoon the mixture in our muffin cases, okay? Remove that. So this is what you're going to be doing in about 5-10 minutes. So we're going to try and make sure there's maybe the same amount of bits of bread is in each one, maybe 2 bits of bread. It's completely up to you. And you're just spooning the mixture into them until you use up all the mixture effectively. Some of the veg doesn't even have to be cooked. If it's really, really small, you could just put it in raw, and because it'll cook when it's in the oven anyway. So we've got a tomato, that can probably go, and put it in there. Got a bit of bread. That's really a bit of trial and error to see which one As long as they all look roughly the same, I'm happy. They don't have to be perfect. There's nothing in here at the moment really needs to be cooked. We can eat mushrooms raw, we can eat peppers raw, we can eat tomatoes raw, we can eat bread raw. Okay, so everything, not bread raw, but you know what I mean, without cooking it. So we're going to put them to one side for the moment, and we're going to break our eggs. Now we need our container for our cracked eggs. So we're going to use our fork, and I would start off just by cupping the egg. Okay, maybe holding the back of the fork or spoon, whatever you're using, and just very gently until you see a bit of the egg white coming out. Finger on either side, turn it up and upside down, and then break. Okay, do that again. So we're going to cup it, just keep tapping, it will break until you see some egg white coming out. Now we see it. Thumbs either side, turn it upside down, and just open up. If you've got any shell in there, we can use our spoon, you can fish it out. I haven't, luckily enough. So what we're going to start doing is beating our eggs up. That's good enough. And this is where you would add some, if you wanted to add some mixed herbs, you might want to add some chili. You could add whatever you wanted to into this bit, okay? And then, this is the messy bit. We might not use all these. If we don't use two of them, we can break up another egg and use them, okay? But what we want to try and do is have some of the eggs are going to fall to the side. So it's going to take our time, okay? Just a spoonful in each one. And again, if you wanted to add a little bit of milk in there, you could add milk, but it's not essential, okay? So I'm going to go along, we're going to do 4 to start with. So all the egg's going to do is once it's in there, it's just going to bind everything together. So when it does go in the oven, it keeps everything together, and the egg's going to find its way in all these little spaces that when it cooks, it's going to harden up. Now you can see I'm taking my time. I'm not putting it in like that, just taking my time. Okay, I'm doing 1 spoonful at a time in each of the 4. So if I've got 2 left, I could always break another egg and do it for them too. So take our time. If you get a little bit of egg on the side, doesn't matter. And when we cook these, we're going to put them in the oven. I'm going to put them on the top shelf for about 15 minutes. Okay. And how will you know when the egg's cooked? So basically, it should be a bit brown on top, but also if you start to peel away some of the muffin case, if you can see it down the bottom and it's still runny, put it back in. And put it back in for another maybe couple of minutes, take it out, check again. If it's still not cooked, take it out, check again. Because obviously we don't want to be eating raw egg. Okay, so the main thing is we're making sure that these are cooked. So you can start to see my egg now coming up to the top of the muffin cases. And as I said, the egg will rise. So if we put it to the top, it'll probably go over the muffin case. It might be a bit messy. So now we can look, and we can see this one's got quite a lot in, this one's got quite a lot in, this one hasn't. So we're going to put another spoonful in there. What you can do is just use your spoon just to pack everything in there. Again, if you needed to add more egg, you can break another egg. You might want to finish them 3 or 2 or whatever, okay? Once you've done that, they're going to go in the oven for about 10 minutes, as I said, on the top, to 15 minutes, sorry. It should rise, okay? So you're going to get them out after maybe 15 minutes. Just have a check. If it's still runny, put them back in for 2-minute intervals. So that is how we make our veggie eggy muffins. So as I said, it's about sort of using a lot of the veg that you might have in the fridge that's about to go off. Make sure it's soft veg. And also, if it is hard, like your carrots, parsnips, anything like that, okay, you might want to cook it before you put them in. You could also add some parsley, some herbs, some spices into there at that point. But the whole beauty of it is that you're trying to use up as much veg. If you've got 12 eggs, just do as many as you can and use up those 12 eggs. Once they're in the fridge, they'll probably store in the fridge for about 5 days, okay? So it's really, really good snack. As I said, they've got everything. They've got carbs, they've got protein, they've got some veg as well. So if you have added variations of what we've just done, please send them along. So we're on Twitter or on YouTube. We're on Instagram, so you can leave some comments here. You can send us some emails. Hopefully you've enjoyed them. If you've got any questions, please feel free to fire them away. Thanks very much for watching, and speak to you soon. Bye.